WWE TLC 2019 is in the books. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to your 2019 TLC review here on the GoodMicWork Commentaries YouTube channel. Show just went off the air a few minutes ago. It actually closed and ended with the women's tag team title match, which I thought was a great decision. I don't think we've seen those tag titles involved in that big of a match yet. They definitely haven't main evented a pay-per-view, possibly a Raw or Smackdown here or there, but nice to see the tag titles, given the way they started off hot and then kind of lost some steam. It's good to see big-time main-level talent competing for these things in a main event of a pay-per-view. I think that helped the tag team titles themselves. We'll talk about the outcome of that match and what happened and the fact that it wasn't a very good main event, to be perfectly honest, here in just a little while as we go through the pay-per-view. But first, just want to say hello, make sure I can be seen and heard over here. The way they started, we look good. Remember that Darth Vader moment we had a few weeks back? Don't want a repeat of that. Pretty good audience in here so far right off the bat. I know you guys after pay-per-views have a lot of options on YouTube, so I appreciate you hanging out with me. Make sure you subscribe if it's your first time here. I do a lot on this channel, lots of reviews, lots of wrestling talk, and I'm up here several times a week. You're going to see me tomorrow night immediately following Raw for a Raw review as well. And then on Tuesday, I've got a This Day in History coming up. And then on Saturday, another Winged Eagle podcast. And then a week from today, next Sunday, another This Day in History. So December is loaded here on the channel, and I thank you guys for hanging out with me so far this month. And don't forget, big episode to close out the year, December 30th, immediately following Monday Night Raw. Big year-end Raw review and Q&A. We'll hang out, we'll spend some time together, chat some wrestling, and we'll close out 2019 in a really strong way. And right behind me over here is a little bit of the bubbly that I will be cracking open and drinking on December 30th, right here with all of you to send off 2019 and welcome in 2020. So that's all for the pleasantries here. We're not going to waste too much time in getting into the results of this pay-per-view. I just put a poll up on Twitter a minute ago. I'm going to go over to it now and take a look. Probably not a whole lot of votes on it because I literally just put it up like 3 minutes ago. Yeah, 115 votes. Did you enjoy tonight's WWE TLC? Yes, no, it was okay, or skipped it. So far, the results are 11% yes, 23% no, 46% it was okay. I'm inclined to agree with that one, and 20% skipped it. So that seems about right. I would expect no matter how many, we get a few more hundred votes on this thing, I expect those numbers to kind of stay where they are, because that's the way I feel. This pay-per-view was not horrible. We've definitely seen worse, and we've definitely seen worse in the month of December, but it wasn't great either. And there was a couple of matches that I thought could have just been done on Raw. The main event really, I thought, started out good and I was excited, and then there was just some dead spots in there where things I don't think were executed well. I don't necessarily think the match or the spots were bad or anything. I thought they were quite innovative. I just thought they were executed kind of poorly. I think there was just a little bit too much going on for those four ladies in that match, and it just didn't come off well. So not one of my favorite women's matches, but still thought, like I said, that it was cool that the tag team titles main evented. We'll blow through the results in order here. We'll start off with the kickoff. First, I want to just head over here to the chat and say hello to those of you that are here, for about 150 of you that are in here right now. Thanks for being here. Good to see you, Jacob and Sam and William and Nick and Jesse and Liam, Sir, Joseph, Richie, Silent Gamer, Legendary, Zane, Austin, Liam, History Fitness Guy, Angie Law. Good to see you again, as always. Recap Wrestling, Nathan Hansen. I'm probably going to start repeating people here. Millennial, Smark, Joshua, Aparicio, Big J, Roderick, all y'all. Appreciate you being here, and we'll have fun tonight. We'll discuss this show. Probably won't spend a ton of time on it. This will probably be about an hour-long stream, and then I'll get out of here because you're going to see me again in 24 hours immediately following Monday Night Raw. Let's start with the kickoff show, because we didn't have much promotion or build for this pay-per-view at all. It took WWE until like 4 days out to finally start announcing some matches for this thing. So going into this morning and going into today, we had nothing announced for the kickoff show. All we had was the 7 announced matches on WWE.com. I had some family obligations this weekend, so my Winged Eagle podcast did not air yesterday. It aired the day before on Friday instead, prior to Smackdown. And I did my predictions for TLC, thinking that they were going to add a match or two on Smackdown, but they didn't. I never even watched Smackdown. I realized that I didn't have to. I'm like, holy shit, the pay-per-view's on Sunday, and I don't have my podcast tomorrow, so I don't have to watch SmackDown and make some notes, so I'm going to skip the whole damn thing. Didn't even watch it, and it felt good, kind of. So I thought for sure on SmackDown we'd get another match or two. We didn't. It took them until today to announce on social media that they're going to do a rematch between Andrade and Humberto Carrillo on the Kickoff show. So I was hoping that since Andrade lost to Humberto, his first loss on Raw since the draft, and he lost all that momentum, that if they're going to book this on the Kickoff show, I'm like, I don't even need to really see this match, but if you're going to do it, okay, fine. Give Andrade his win back. It's the one time that I'd be okay with 50-50 booking, because I really hate when they start to make you think someone's important, and then they just take it all away, to give it to someone else they're going to try to make important, that they'll ultimately do the same thing to. And Andrade is a proven commodity. He's had some amazing matches. He's got a good look, lots of charisma, great little team there with Zelina Vega, which we'll talk about in a minute. And everybody wants to see this guy pushed. We've been having him in our short lists to win the last 2 Royal Rumbles, because he would just be a perfect choice to kind of get over, kind of like they did with Del Rio or maybe Sheamus or some other up-and-comer when they were kind of young, giving him the Royal Rumble win. But the way he's been treated lately, I don't know if he's ever going to get out of that middle of the card. And based on what we saw here, with another victory for Humberto Carrillo, Andrade, by the way, got busted open hard way. Looked like something really close to his eye. A lot of blood all over his face throughout this thing. And after Humberto won, they teased more dissension with Zelina Vega. They did this when he lost last week on Raw as well. So to me, this is like bad news all over the place. Number one, Andrade lost, which I think sucks, because I think this guy, especially since you just had the draft, could be a main event player. Am I right? Why is this guy not in the title picture? I know one reason, because Brock's sitting on his ass with that belt way up in BFE or whatever the hell he lives. So the belt is out of the picture right now, but when it's here, he should be one of the main guys competing for it, along with Aleister Black, along with Kevin Owens. You give me a 6-month WWE title program between Kevin Owens and Andrade, I'll pay money to see that. Hell yeah. I think it would be amazing. The matches would be amazing. The segments would be great. And even those two guys could probably find a way to make scripted promos work. At least Kevin Owens could. So I just think there's no excuse for not putting this guy in the top of the card, especially when you're in need of, some more big-time talent and some more title contenders. Right now, Brock's kind of by himself with nobody on the current roster right now I even see winning the Royal Rumble and challenging him. I think Brock's challenger is going to come from outside the box. It's going to be Cain Velasquez. It's going to be Keith Lee. It's going to be Matt Riddle. It's going to be someone like that. And it really doesn't have to be. There should be enough talent on Raw when you look at guys like Andrade, like Aleister Black. Why the hell are these guys not competing for titles right now? And I like Humberto, talented kid, nothing against him necessarily. But between the two, I think Andrade's got more main event level potential. So if you're going to build Carrillo and make him into something important, fine. Maybe there was just somebody else he could have had these two matches with and beat. Instead of, I don't want to say sacrificing Andrade, because I don't really think that happened here, because this is clearly all tying in. These losses are going to go forgotten and probably take a backseat to the fact that he's splitting with Zelina Vega. And I don't think that's a good idea either. So it's like a double disappointment. I think the two of them together are great. And there's a big conspiracy theory going on. I think Brian Zane might have been the first one to point it out. But if you notice on TV, the last 6 or 7 weeks, Zelina and Aleister Black's segments have come back to back. And here you thought that it was going to happen again, or it wasn't going to happen this time, and it still did. Because later on in the show, on the main card, prior to the Buddy Murphy and Aleister Black match, they showed an entire replay of Zelina Andrade having the dissension after the match. So really interesting, and there's got to be more to that than meets the eye. So I don't know if the eventual plan here is to move Zelina to her husband and have her back up him, but I think Zelina is a better fit for Andrade. I think the act together, the duo, is great. They pair well together. I don't think Zelina matches Aleister. I mean, what's she going to do? Come up from that thing with the candles and the crazy music, and she's going to completely change her look? Maybe that's what they're doing. I don't know. I just think there's more miles left in the Zelina and Andrade team. And I think Andrade should win some gold first. I thought he was going to be U.S. champion 9 months ago. I still thought he might if he eventually dethrones Mysterio at some point. but every time we think they're going to do something with him, they don't. And holy shit, I've spent a lot of time talking about that kickoff match. But anyway, I was just kind of disappointed with, Andrade's treatment. I think he deserves better, and he's been on the roster long enough now to where it's not like you just haven't gotten around to find anything for him. Like, how long has he been there? Over a year? Maybe longer than that? Come on, guys. Get it together, WWE. Anyway, that pretty much wraps it up for the kickoff. Only one match on there. Lana and Lashley had an interview on the kickoff, and Lana was being a mega bitch, and she was really giving shit to Booker T. And then the Revival came out later on, and they essentially challenged Booker T and his brother Stevie Ray to a match and got all up in Booker's face and disrespected him. So poor Booker just got shit on in this whole entire kickoff show, and Lana even claimed that she had a better spinneroonie than Booker T, which I'll believe that when I see it. I don't think so. Anyway, main card time now. They announced on the kickoff that the Smackdown tag team ladder match would open the show. So we already knew that. Revival versus the New Day. I knew this one was going to be fun, regardless of the Revival's contract status or whatever they might do later on in a few months, whether they stick with WWE or go elsewhere. WWE still putting them in tag team title matches. I didn't feel them winning here. I just didn't. I thought that New Day would retain. That's what I predicted, and they did. And a really good match, though. A lot of innovative offense like you would expect from these two teams in something like a ladder match. Big E crashes through a ladder in the corner. They kind of had it bridged up on the turnbuckle and in the ring, and he kind of clipped the end of it to where it just kind of bent it. And they would wind up, I forgot who went off. Was it Scott Dawson? Was it Scott Dawson that went off of it later? Like, they left that up there after they tried like twice to put Big E through it. Finally, they crunched through it, but it's still kind of laying there till later on. It's a Scott Dawson who's up on the top of the ladder, and Kofi kind of pushes him off, and he falls on the broken ladder, which just makes me think the bump hurt that much worse because it's already on the mat, sort of. There's no give there, and it can't break to help break your fall. So he just took a stiff back shot on that. It looked gross, and probably not a bump that he really needed to take. Kofi at the end found himself up on top of the ladder with, I thought there was somebody up on the catwalk moving the belts because they were swinging violently. And Kofi, of course, he's kind of on the ladder and he's disoriented, and then the belts are swinging right in front of his face. I'm like, Kofi, it's right there. Oh, you don't even have to reach very high. You just have to go like, got it. That's it. So finally he kind of comes to, and he has to wait for the belts to swing back closer to him. And I would have sworn there was somebody up there puppeteering that stuff from above. But anyway, Kofi finally gets his hands on the big golden WWE coat hanger. Is that thing necessary? It's just a tiny little piece, an example of the overproduction and shit like that I can't stand. That thing is not even needed. Just hang the belts up there. What's the big deal? Finally, that thing comes within Kofi's grasp, but he snags them. New Day retains. And a really good match, exactly like I thought it would be, and it was a great way to open the show. That's probably the best choice. I kind of thought it was going to be Alistair and Buddy Murphy, but having New Day and Revival do it, I actually thought was the right call. Now, Black and Murphy would be up next. They were up second on the show. Now, like I said, they showed the Zelina Andrade replay right before this match, which I just laughed my ass off on. And more blood in this. Andrade got busted open on the kickoff, and in this match, Aleister Black looked like he got a broken nose. Took a pretty stiff shot right to his nose. You can even see a cut right above it, and it looked a little bit crooked. And Lawler was insistent that he broke his nose. I thought he was just overselling it, but by the time the camera got a close-up of his nose, it definitely looked broken. And very great finish. I really like the finish. Very cool because Buddy Murphy is hitting Aleister with like this flurry of offense, and then out of nowhere, he just eats a black mask right in the face. And Aleister gets on top of him and pins him. Now, props to Aleister. He worked the rest of that match. I thought they might maybe go home early because of the nose and the blood and maybe the pain. Maybe he couldn't see or whatever. But he, much like, John Cena, a lot of other guys who we've seen have their honker relocated to a different part of their face, they get through the match. And Aleister he's awesome. He's a guy that I've loved ever since, even when he was making his entrance tonight in TLC, I missed him in NXT because when I would hear his theme song in NXT, it associated it much more with a bigger moment, like a bigger match, more importance. On WWE, it's just, you know what I mean? It just doesn't feel the same. So he got a victory here, but again, it's not like a great victory. He just beat Buddy Murphy, another guy, much like Andrade, much like Mustafa Ali, and some other guys that it looks like they're starting to push, and then for some reason, they just pull back on. So here we've got Aleister Black picking up a win in a really good match. I mean, this was good. You know, props to both guys, but is WWE going to appreciate the good match? The match can be as great as we want it to be if they just decide to put the brakes on Aleister Black's push and keep him off TV for another couple of weeks. I'm assuming you might have a return. They might do a return tomorrow night on Raw between Black and Murphy, where maybe Black wins again or something like that. But in the end, is it really going to result in him moving up the card and becoming a top contender? Wouldn't an Aleister Black and Brock Lesnar match be cool? I don't think we'd ever see that. WWE will never give us that match, even though it would be badass, wouldn't it? But it's just one of those things that's going to be forever out of our reach because WWE doesn't see those potential great matchups the way we, the fans, do. And it's like they never do it. It's fucking frustrating. So even though I'm happy with the match, thought it was a great outing for both guys, especially Aleister Black, I just get nervous when I see what happened to Andrade and what happens to so many other guys that they start doing something with, and then we're like, nah, change our mind. So let's hope, keep our fingers crossed, that doesn't happen to Aleister Black. Let me peek over here to the chat in case there's anything that needs to be talked about. Zane, thank you, brother, for the super chat in there. You think that's what they're doing? I mean, I really hope that they already have like the romance angle going on with Lana and Rusev and Lashley, you know, with the Zelina and Andrade potential breakup here. Do you think they're going to move both of them onto their partners? I mean, Andrade and Charlotte together? Does that even make any sense? You know, or Zelina with Black or whatever. I don't know why they're even breaking them up. I mean, what's Charlotte like in real life? I mean, would this wouldn't have anything to do with jealousy, right? Zelina's a happily married woman. You know, was Charlotte like insecure about Andrade being, you know, on screen with another woman, or is it her doing? I just don't understand. To me, the breakup of the duo doesn't make a whole lot of sense right now, especially when you're not doing anything with Andrade anyway. This isn't the way to get him over. The way to get him over is just put him in big matches and put him in title matches and have him win and shit. You know, fans will get behind him. He's awesome. Yeah, I don't know. Who knows what they're doing there? Next up, we had the Viking Raiders Open Challenge. This one I was worried about. I had no real reasoning in my head why I thought this match shouldn't just happen on Raw unless there's going to be some big team to come out and challenge them. Now, I talked about in my predictions that the only team I think that would even come close to defeating them in a match in an open challenge like this would be the Authors of Pain, given that they're now in this big storyline with Seth Rollins, but I didn't even really feel that happening. But if they did show up, I felt like they would have to win. You know, that's not a team you really want to beat, but I want to hold off on that eventual collision between those two teams. So a lot of you guys had some good ideas. Some of you said, mentioned the Usos. I thought that would have been a great team to come out and challenge the War Raiders. So I predicted that no matter what happens, War Raiders will win unless it's the AOP. So I was technically right, or actually I was not right on this one because get this match ended in a double count out. Viking Raiders came out there. I don't even know. There's just so many different levels to the stupidity of this match. Viking Raiders come out there first. I think they even say something on the mic. They have a table of fans out there. They set up this KFC table at ringside, and 4 fans who apparently won a contest got to sit out there at a table inside the barricade and eat fried chicken or KFC food, whatever they were serving. I'm assuming it was chicken, while the match is happening. So they just get a front row seat with chicken. This is all happening during a WWE tag team title match. I would have loved to be sitting ringside eating fried chicken when the Hart Foundation beat Demolition. That would have been awesome. Here, not so much. And on top of that, the open challenge was a complete waste. It turned out to be the OC, which was mentioned a lot by you guys when we were discussing who it could be. Many of you said it would be the OC, and you were right. I just thought that was kind of lame, and why even book this match for a pay-per-view? Look at all of the unused talent on Raw and SmackDown that you could have made matches with. You had no Seth Rollins on this show. You had no Bayley, no Sasha. There's just so many matches you could have done. This was a Raw match. You could have done this KFC tag team title shit on Raw, the same segment. Viking Raiders are going to do an open challenge right here on Raw tonight. And then when you come back from commercial, you see the fans eating the chicken. The Viking Raiders make the challenge. OC comes out, double count out. Fans can boo all they want. Who cares? It's Monday Night Raw. We're expected things to suck on Monday Night Raw. But this is a pay-per-view that is now co-branded. You have so much damn talent to pick from, and you give us a bullshit match that means nothing, and we don't even get a finish out of it. Double count out. Wonderful. I thought maybe it was a botch. I thought maybe they just didn't get back in the ring in time and the referee had no choice. The fans booed the shit out of it, and in the end, they continued to brawl until Carl Anderson, I think, wound up going through a table at the hands of the Viking Raiders. So the whole match was horrible. One of my least favorite matches in all of 2019. Just when you think we're at the end of the year and WWE can't get any suckier, they do. Nice job, WWE. In one of the only matches that I predicted wrong on this whole pay-per-view, Roman Reigns took on Baron Corbin. This was a TLC match, and Baron Corbin had all sorts of help. He had 100 security guards. He had the Revival, I think. He had Dolph Ziggler. No Bobby Roode. Robert Roode was suspended for 30 days, wellness policy violation, so he's absent from this whole thing. But the match was fine. It was exactly what I expected out of these two guys. You know, Corbin, you guys know I hate him. Hate his dumb face and his dumb bald head and everything about his whole body I hate. But he's a good worker, man. I can't lie. Corbin's good. Him and Roman did just fine in this match. It wasn't anything that extravagant, but, you know, it wasn't a snooze fest either. In the end, Corbin had all this help. I mean, I was getting some SummerSlam 2010 vibes here where it's like John Cena is, you know, up against an insurmountable disadvantage here, and he somehow wins. So the more people that were entering this match, the more I was thinking I was going to be wrong on this prediction. I just thought that after the dog food spot, and mind you, I even said this on Friday when I did my predictions. I was doing my predictions before Smackdown. So I said, I'm predicting Roman to win right now, but depending on what happens later on, he might get his revenge on Smackdown, and then maybe, you know, he'll lose the match at TLC. So I was mindful of that, but I still thought Roman is Roman, and he's always got to win. But Corbin got the victory after help with Ziggler, and all of his security guards, had to have been 20 guys. I don't know, 20 against 1. Finally, Roman succumbs, got hit with the end of days and pinned, and that was that. So the two of these guys would continue things later on. They would actually close the show, which we'll talk about in a minute. But as far as that match goes, I think I was disappointed. I think maybe even people who hate Roman Reigns are probably disappointed that he lost here, because we want to see this thing over. I just do not like this feud at all. It's been going on way too long. It's been going on forever. I mean, when is this going to freaking end with these two? And it's not a feud any of us want to see anyway, and they're dragging it on. And this thing cannot stretch until the Royal Rumble. I think these two guys will just be in the Royal Rumble, and whatever blow-off they're going to have, you got to do that on SmackDown, and preferably do that before year's end so we can move on to bigger and better things for both of these guys in 2020. Corbin now, with a big victory under his belt on pay-per-view over Roman, you know, can go on to do more heelish, asshole-ish things and maybe feud with someone, I don't know, maybe just a little more fun. This feud is just, it's a match that we've seen so many times. Roman and Corbin had their issues dating all the way back prior to him leaving, right? When he was Constable Corbin and giving shit to Roman, and then Roman forfeited the title. So I'm really sick of these two having any sort of an issue with each other at all, and I'd like it to wrap up real soon. Y'all agree? Y'all agree? Let me check out this Twitter poll. Yeah, numbers staying quite the same here, except the amount of people that enjoyed the pay-per-view is dropping down from 11% to 8%. 22% no, 48% said it was okay, and 22% skipped it. Yikes. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely, I can understand people that skipped this one. You really didn't need to see it. We missed nothing. We had no new champions crowned, right? No titles changed hands, no nothing. So we could have really just gone without this one. I think the only really unique thing about this pay-per-view was the next match, which was the WWE Universal title match between Bray Wyatt and The Miz. And that's right, Bray Wyatt, not The Fiend. And we had a feeling, because they were kind of making that note on SmackDown, that he was going to be facing Bray Wyatt. And he did. It's our first time seeing this version in the ring, which is great, because I mentioned a couple of weeks ago when this was rumored that means no red light, which may be a combination of the two characters, means that we don't have to suffer through that red light all the time, because at this point, even though the fans hate it, it would be tough for them to stop doing it unless they made some sort of a weird reason. The red light is just part of the gimmick. So now that you have Funhouse Bray, at least we don't have to see that all the time. And he came out there to Funhouse theme song, and danced around the ring and acted very crazy. Miz came out first, by the way, and the match was weird because you wondered how normal Bray was going to be. He definitely wasn't going to be that monster horror movie villain that's impervious to pain like we've seen before with The Fiend. You knew it had to be something different. So in this one, he kind of acted a little bit out of his mind, almost like a cross between 1996 Mankind and 1993 heel Doink, because he was really crazy but really hard to figure out at the same time. The Miz actually kicks the shit out of him for the first few minutes of the match. Bray Wyatt's not even attempting to fight back. He attempts no offensive moves whatsoever for minutes on end, and at some points he's even laughing while Miz is kicking him or ripping his face apart or whatever. Bray seems to really enjoy himself. At one point it looks like he might have gotten his shoulder dislocated when the Miz snapped his arm back in an arm bar, and he immediately runs on the outside of the ring and starts ramming himself into the barricade, kind of like Mankind pulling out the hair, seemingly to snap his shoulder back in place, or just because he liked it. Point here was it was really tough to figure out. Bray Wyatt, announcers were putting it over, like, what is he doing? What is he up to? This makes no sense. Finally, he gets some offense in and hits the Miz with a Sister Abigail on the outside of the ring, gets back in the ring. Miz just barely beats the count in and walks right into a second Sister Abigail, and Bray Wyatt gets the definitive and dominant 1-2-3 over the Miz and retains the Universal title. He was out there with a big blue belt, which is a beautiful belt. Looks good. First look at that thing, which is another reason why they might want to have Funhouse Bray out there sometime, so they can have two versions of the title and remind everybody that the Universal title is now blue. So after Bray Wyatt is done annihilating poor Miz, the lights go off, the Fiend appears on the Tron, and he might have said something, I can't remember. Bray Wyatt goes to the outside of the ring, goes under the ring, and picks out that big mallet that I think we saw make an appearance in, what, the Hell in the Cell? Is that where we saw that thing? So the big, colorful, crazy, Beetlejuice-like mallet gets pulled out, and he's going to attack the Miz, and that's when I said, I'm like, is this where Bryan makes the save here? And he does. A hooded figure gets into the ring, wearing a red hoodie, attacks Bray Wyatt, pulls off the hoodie to reveal a very 2011-ish looking Daniel Bryan. Everything's completely shaved off. Bray Wyatt yanked all of his hair out a couple of weeks ago on Smackdown, and that little doll that they, on Smackdown last night when they did the thing where Bray Wyatt invaded the Miz and Maurice's home, and he put that doll in the crib of the Miz's daughter, who, by the way, is a much better actor than Lana, is she not? The look on her face, that was great. So when you look at that doll, though, doesn't it look like it was made from the hair that Bray Wyatt ripped out of Daniel Bryan's skull? I think that's pretty cool. So Daniel Bryan then attacks, lays in to Bray Wyatt with all sorts of kicks and a bunch of running knees, grabs the mallet and is about to splatter Bray Wyatt on the mat. When the lights go down, they come back up and Bray Wyatt has disappeared. So that's the end of that. Bryan looked good with the short hair. It's kind of weird to see him like that 8 years after the fact. He does look a little bit older now because he is. And that was kind of in my predictions. I talked about him making an appearance in this match and maybe even possibly turning heel again, because if you remember, it was 6 years ago in 2013 that these two guys were, or Bryan was in the Wyatt family with Bray Wyatt, and then he turned on him right at the end of the year prior to the Royal Rumble and all of that. So I thought maybe Daniel Bryan could join up with Bray Wyatt and turn on The Miz, but instead he saved The Miz. And I talked about that possibility too. They've been teasing these two guys kind of tolerating each other on SmackDown. Even there's a possibility here they could become bros and maybe team up to take on The Fiend. And this thing's going to extend a little bit longer, which I think is good. Because I initially thought, like I've said before, that the matches and the feud with Daniel Bryan was going to be just something to kill time to get Bray Wyatt into 2020 and into WrestleMania, and in the end, they wouldn't spend a whole lot of time creatively on the feud. It's just kind of like a buffer, a filler type of thing, but they have. They've gone in some directions I haven't expected them to, involving The Miz, shaving off Daniel Bryan's head. It's turned out to be good stuff, and now we're on the verge of another match between the two, I'm guessing, at the Royal Rumble. So, what do y'all think's going to happen there? I mean, eventually Daniel Bryan's going to have to go down to The Fiend because The Fiend's got to go into WrestleMania as champion. You're not going to beat him before then, at least in my mind. But what do y'all think of that? Yeah, I agree. I mean, a lot of people enjoyed I saw it on Twitter too. A lot of people enjoyed the match just because it was different, and a lot of people weren't even sure if they wanted to see Funhouse Bray Wyatt in the ring. Because some people were kind of concerned about it. Maybe not bitching, so to speak, but definitely concerned. Well, like, oh shit, I kind of was used to just seeing him in the fun house. If he comes out in the ring, maybe that can ruin it, but I don't think so. I thought it worked pretty well. And clearly, if Bray Wyatt, the character, gives a shit about the title at all, the one thing we have, the one significance... I've got my window cracked open, so loud-ass cars going by. Anyway, I think if Bray Wyatt really cares about the Universal title, if he's ever going to lose that, he's got a better chance of losing that as Funhouse Bray, because in Funhouse Bray, as we saw tonight, he can be hurt. He can be beaten down, and he apparently doesn't like to fight back very much. So eventually, someone will catch him and beat him for the title. So somebody's got to beat the Fiend. So if Bray Wyatt can choose who he is in every match, why is he not the Fiend every time? I don't know, but it is fun. It is good character development and shows you another side. And this is great for Bray Wyatt. I mean, a few years ago, we thought this guy was dead in the water, and now he's pretty much the hottest act going in WWE right now in terms of what a unique and different and crazy type of character it is. And the fans like him. I don't think the fans wanted to see The Miz pull off the upset tonight. We knew he wouldn't. There was no way The Miz was going to win this. So I think as a heel, I think he's more beloved than many of the babyfaces currently on the roster. So I like the whole thing. Match was decent, match was different, and it was cool to see Daniel Bryan return. And now we'll probably build for the next few weeks to a match between the two at the Royal Rumble, and the Royal Rumble is still a ways off. I'm going to be already back from the cruise by the time we get to the Rumble. So you got a full month and a week, 6 weeks, 5 weeks, something like that, to build to that. So we'll see. Hopefully that's not too much time to where the feud loses steam, but I don't think it will. I'm liking it. Rusev and Lashley was up next. After we saw the WWE title match happen, we knew that one of these two matches had to main event. It was either going to be Rusev and Lashley or the women's tag. I'm glad that it turned out to be the women's tag. Rusev and Lashley was up next. Now, this was only a tables match, I think, is all this was, after we've seen a lot of craziness already on the card. Not much to say here, just a brawl between the two. I think the best part of this angle on the show was earlier on, I think on the kickoff, when Rusev did a backstage interview and he was wearing an Andrade the Giant Anybody Want a Peanut shirt, which was the best part of this whole situation to me tonight at TLC. Not much to say about the match. Lashley won with a lot of help from Lana. And now this storyline has, I don't know if it's over or if it's going to continue. I predicted this one right too. I said Lashley was going to win only because I thought it would continue. But when you look at it, why would it? Why would it continue? Rusev does not seem to be dejected or upset or heartbroken at all on TV. His character could give two fucks that he's not with Lana anymore. He's happy he's not with her. He's said as much. And he's happy that she's Bobby Lashley's headache now, or Bob Lashley's headache now. So now that Rusev doesn't care, he does not want to fight for her. He's glad to be rid of her. The divorce is final. And you have a match. Why do you even have to have a match after this? What is Rusev fighting for? For revenge, I guess? Maybe revenge, because he did fall short here tonight. But I kind of think that you're just done. But now, what do you do with Rusev? You got Lana and Lashley together. You're going to do that long term? How is that going to work? Is Lana and Rusev now going to get in trouble? Remember when they got in trouble or they got heat for announcing their engagement in the middle of the Dolph Ziggler shit or whatever? You mean to tell me these two can't travel together now? They can't check into hotels together, rent rental cars together, sit next to each other on airplanes? And if they do, are they going to get heat? Is the company just purposely putting them in these weird situations just for fans to run into them at the airport and say, I knew you were together, or whatever? It's just, I don't know. It's just dumb. And I don't know where it's leading, because now it doesn't seem like it's leading anywhere, and we don't really have a storyline reason for it to continue. Right? I'm right? So anyway, that match was, again, kind of dumb and kind of one that they could have saved for like a main event of a Raw. I would have much rather seen this match in the main event of a Monday Night Raw with maybe some more crazy shit going on than in the middle of a card in a December pay-per-view. It was just one of the low points to me of the night, not one of my favorite matches. This is when they cut backstage. They cut backstage to a Street Profits promo, which is interrupted by a Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin brawl. Now, not only is Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin brawling, but finally, Roman Reigns has found some friends, because in the Baron Corbin match, Corbin had 20 guys on his side, and Roman, the locker room leader, had no one to come out there and help him or save him or fight for him or anything. So Roman has like no friends in the locker room. That must be sad. Is he all alone at the lunch table and catering That makes me so sad. Poor Roman has got no friends. So nobody helped him, but now all of a sudden backstage when he's brawling with Corbin, you got everybody. You got the New Day out there, the Revival. I think there was a couple of other baby faces as well. Like Shorty G was in there, New Day, Street Profits, and Revival. I think I saw Dolph Ziggler was a part of this. So just brawling everywhere. And the brawl continued because in the middle of the main event, Jerry Lawler says, hey, in my earpiece, they're telling me that the brawl is still going on backstage. So the brawl happened all throughout the final match here, which was WWE Women's Tag Team titles on the line, Kabuki Warriors defending against Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. I've never been happier to be wrong about a prediction. I thought Becky and Charlotte would win. I had a fella tonight telling me on Twitter what I knew a lot of people would say about this match, and they would say, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for Becky and Charlotte to win when it makes perfect sense. Number one, it's a wrestling match, and if you're trying to pretend it's real, anybody can win. You know, there's got to be a winner and there's got to be a loser. So it making no sense, saying it makes no sense. And plus, when you look at what they're doing, if they were to put the belts on Becky and Charlotte, it's the same thing they've done with the men for years. Think about how many times two main eventers have teamed up, even as rivals. It's very common for two rivals, especially if they're in the middle of a title program, to team up together and win the tag team titles. Happens all the time. Happened at WrestleMania 23, right? The main event involved tag team champions, Shawn Michaels and John Cena, for the title. Remember? Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold won the titles in 97. Stone Cold and The Undertaker won the titles in 98. The Rock and The Undertaker, I think, also won the titles in 98 or 99. Who else? Lots of Triple H and Austin. Remember the 2-man, 3-man power trip or whatever the fuck it was? They won the titles. Undertaker and Kane. This happens all the time. So it's not out of the ordinary for WWE to put the titles on two main eventers. Yes, I like it more when it's teams, because back in the day, you didn't see this too much. In the 80s, it would remain on teams. I like tag team wrestling. I'm finally sold on the Kabuki Warriors after months, because I didn't like them being put together as baby faces. I didn't like them with Paige even more. And now that they finally kind of turned heel, changed their identity up a little bit, became more of a team, have, new theme music instead of just that lazy mashup, doing the green mist. I'm liking all of that. Finally. Bub, get away from my cords there. I'm liking everything that they're doing. And finally, now that I'm sold on them, they're going to take the belts off of them and put it on Charlotte and Becky. So I was kind of split on it. Even if Charlotte and Becky would have won, I wouldn't have cared. Would have been fine. And it would have been a great way to put the tag team titles, which are a new title and were only established a few months ago, on some major stars. And look at this, too. The tag team titles are the main event of a pay-per-view. We haven't seen that yet. We've had some, I haven't liked the path that the tag titles were on for a while with, the Iconics winning. Nothing against the Iconics. I just don't think it was really time for them to win the belts at WrestleMania. Nikki and Alexa, I liked better, but weren't my favorite team either. Finally, when the Kabuki Warriors get the hands on the belts, I'm like, okay, you got to run with these girls for a while because they mean business and they're awesome together. So Charlotte and Becky are rivals. They don't really get along to begin with. And it would make sense that the Kabukis would win this match totally. I just think if Becky and Charlotte would have won, it wouldn't have been the end of the world. And I'm glad they didn't win, because I really would not have wanted to read that bullshit all night tonight on Twitter about how stupid it was. It doesn't make sense when all you have to do is just peek back a little bit through history and you see the same shit happening all the time. That's my only point. I think the match started off good. They had a lot of energy, a lot of intensity, and I had high expectations. I'm like, oh, this is going to be really good. I can tell. I can just feel it, in the air, because this is a time for these women to shine here. But it quickly kind of went downhill. It took them forever for anybody to even attempt to go up and grab the belts. A little bit too long. I think somebody should have at least made an attempt to grab the title way before they did. But by the time they got to it, they had fucked up so many spots. It was kind of the fans were letting it be known that it wasn't the greatest match they've ever seen. I also didn't like the spot where they tied Becky down on the outside of the ring. They had basically the ladder laying on the floor like railroad tracks, and they tied Becky to the ladder with this rope. But Becky is just laying there selling it. Like, squiggle around, girl. Like, you can get out of that. I could get out of that. All I have to do is shake down or shimmy down it, and you can get right out. So she's laying there tied in this ladder, kind of like fake trying to get out, and it looked like shit and just completely not believable. I mean, if you're tied down, you do enough squirming around and stuff. I mean, unless Asuka and Kairi Sane know some crazy Boy Scout knots that I'm not aware of, I think Becky, just based on looking on how that rope was wrapped around her, to have to sit there and pretend that you couldn't get out of it, I thought was lame. So I didn't really like that. Charlotte winds up kind of loosening the knot for her before she's attacked with a chair, and then Becky's finally able to squirm out of the ropes. So now they're back to full strength. Charlotte and Becky, they come really close to losing. I think it's Asuka's trying to get up the ladder. The first thing they do is take like a year and a half, Asuka and Kairi, I should say, to position the ladder under the belts. And I hate this in ladder matches. It's been a nitpick of mine ever since ladder matches were created, that the ladder match concept is great, but sometimes when you're trying to slow yourself down and climb up the ladder, it just looks so fucking ridiculously, horribly fake. Like, who the fuck can't put a ladder underneath something and climb up it? It doesn't take 20 minutes. So they're really taking forever to simply set this ladder up. Oh, is this side right? And push it down. And oh wait, the rope is tied to it. We have to untie this rope. And you knew that rope was going to come into play later on. And it literally takes them about 5 minutes to set up the ladder, another 5 minutes to climb up it, and by then, Charlotte and Becky, who are covered underneath tables and chairs, recover, hit the ring, and knock them off. It was just a mess. It was just a kind of a hilarious mess. So we eventually get to the point where there's just tons of debris, tons of carnage, and weak-ass chair shots when Becky and Charlotte kind of hit the ring, and they're just really kind of pulling back on the chair shots, and I think that's when the fans kind of let them have it a little bit because it just didn't really look right. Eventually, the Kabuki Warriors would get the upper hand again. Kairi was kind of knocked loopy. A lot of people are talking that she might have a concussion. She was kind of swaying and walking around kind of funny out there, and she was on the outside of the ring for the majority of the end of this thing. But eventually, Becky and Charlotte are down. I don't even remember what happened there, but Asuka was able to climb up to the top and grab the yellow coat hanger off and retain the titles. And a pleasant surprise. I'm really happy that I picked that match wrong, because I want to see the Kabuki Warriors continue, and this marks the second year in a row now, right, that Asuka has defeated Charlotte and Becky. I think they did the triple threat last year for the title, and she won it, right? So that's awesome. I'm happy that they got another victory here, and I'm glad that they didn't just force the belt onto Becky and Charlotte to give Charlotte another feather in her cap. I did kind of have that in the back of my mind, that they want to decorate Charlotte as much as possible, so giving her a quick little taste of the tag titles here for a few weeks before her and Becky implode and they drop the belts would make a lot of sense if I'm thinking, along the lines of the way WWE thinks. So I've never been happier to be wrong about a prediction, and I've never been happier to be surprised at an outcome. It's just the match itself wasn't very good. I don't think it was executed well. It was sloppy. It was a little bit clunky, and there was way too many. When you have this many props and you have this many planned spots, it just takes too long. I mean, this is one of the big critiques a lot of people have of AEW. You take a look at Dynamite this past week, that big ladder match that they had with the Bucks and Proud and Powerful and everything, that thing went on all over the place, and they went way overboard. And a lot of it got to the point where it was just doing spots for spots, and it didn't mean anything, and they broke like 10 more tables than I thought they really needed to. But I think that was still better and lacking in some of the execution that the girls did here tonight. So not my favorite women's match. I just don't think it's TLC, so you have to have a TLC match, but you could have just made this thing like the New Day match, just made it a ladder match or something, which essentially is the same thing. I just think there was too many spots tried, too much going on, and eventually I think it took its toll to where everybody kind of felt like they were walking in slow motion. Right? It just felt like that near the end. It was just kind of slow. It like dragged is the best way I can think of to describe that. So in the end, when Asuka pulls the belts down, their music is playing. Immediately following the match, that big brawl that was happening backstage with Baron Corbin and Roman Reigns and everybody else spills out into the arena now. They're brawling up the stairs, and I think Roman's up in either balconies or some production equipment, and he spears Baron Corbin off of whatever ledge they were on top of the big pile of people that's gathered underneath them to catch him. And that's how the show goes off the air. So I guess they didn't feel like the women's tag team title match was enough. And it's kind of ironic, too. Remember back during WrestleMania and Asuka and Charlotte match? And right after Charlotte won, I think that's when they did the thing where the guy went and whispered to John Cena something about The Undertaker, and Cena hopped over the barricade. That huge WrestleMania match with Charlotte ending that streak, which should have been a huge deal and was a big deal. I love the match. But I kind of think it took away from the end to immediately cut away from an ending and a celebration that's kind of a big one right to John Cena for him to run away to get ready to face The Undertaker. This kind of reminded me of that, where as soon as this match was over, out comes the brawl, and that's what WWE felt like they had to close with. And I don't know what that means on SmackDown now or what, but this Roman and Corbin shit is going to continue. I'm hoping that they do a match right away. I'm hoping that this Friday on SmackDown, they just make some crazy match. They can announce it this week on social media, or they can wait until Friday night, whatever. Just make a match between the two and make that the blow-off and end it. I think that that's what they should do, at least based on the ending that we saw on TLC. There's no way. There's no way Roman and Corbin can make it to the Royal Rumble. Absolutely no way at all. Too far away. All right, we got a pretty decent audience in here of 235 folks. Thanks for hanging out tonight. That is pretty much it for the main card. I'll stick around now and hang out and chat with you guys and answer the super chats that I have missed. By the way, if you guys, for those of you that are in here right now, can do me a big favor for this TLC review and smash that thumbs up button. Thumbs up really help traction and engagement with the channel, and every little bit helps. So the views, the subs, the likes, all that helps. Get me up to at least 100 before I sign off here, and I'd appreciate it. I guess we can talk about upcoming shows. I mean, the next pay-per-view is going to be the Royal Rumble. How Wheezy, thank you for the $2, brother. Good to see you in here, and I'm glad I've got a mod in the house. Ascension and Harper are booked for upcoming fan fests. That's good. I'm sure you will be there, and I'm sure you will meet them. Send me the pictures when you do. That's good. I'm so glad that they have broken away and are freed from Shawshank. Favorite match of the night? Let me look at my notes here. I'm probably going to say Black and Murphy, as Mr. E is saying down there as well. I'm probably going to have to agree with that. I think when we were talking on Friday, we were talking in the chat about which match we think is going to be the best. And I kind of voted for the TLC match, the women's tag. And I was definitely wrong. Black and Murphy, I think I'm going to agree with you there. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, Roman and Corbin, that just was what it was. Main event kind of failed a little bit, in my opinion. Bray Wyatt and The Miz was interesting, but I wouldn't call it like a great match. And the opening ladder match was solid. But yeah, I'll go Black and Murphy. That was probably my favorite match of the night as well. And I think I agree pretty much completely with my Twitter poll as well. Let me peek back at these results. Yeah, pretty much the same. I feel about the way you do. It looks like the majority of the people thought that the show was just okay. Very few people said they enjoyed it. Some people said they didn't. And a lot of people skipped it as well. And it was a skippable show. Like I said, no titles changed hands. A lot of these issues weren't even resolved. Maybe Lashley and Rusev was, but Corbin and Roman doesn't appear to be. Bray Wyatt and The Miz and Daniel Bryan doesn't appear to be. And I don't know what's next for Becky and Charlotte, but yeah, this was like an episode of TV. It was just it was completely skippable. But still good wrestling. I mean, you got to at least hand it to the talent. They went out there and did their thing. They all worked hard and put on relatively entertaining matches, and nobody was lazy out there. It was just a poorly built pay-per-view, poorly promoted pay-per-view. WWE, it felt like it was in the way. It was on the calendar, and they're like, oh shit, we got to make matches for this thing, when they could have just, fucking skipped it or whatever. So next up now is the Royal Rumble, and now is when things start to get fun, because now we're on the road to WrestleMania. Now the speculation can begin, and now you can start taking individual pieces of talent and trying to think long-term for them as far as storylines go. And you can start right at the top with the big titles. A lot of people are thinking that it's going to be Roman Reigns going into WrestleMania to face The Fiend. There's a few rumblings about The Rock, but I just don't think we're ever going to get that match done, Rock and Roman Reigns. So if Roman does go in to face The Fiend, I think, who was I talking to? I think it was Deluxe Man the other night on Twitter, because he was adamant about, Roman Reigns not facing The Fiend. And I kind of understand it a way, but I also don't understand why this guy is not allowed to be champion. It's been like a year and a half since he forfeited the belt. He used to be champion. He never even lost it. Like, why is a title shot so out of the question? Now, I think his problem or his concern was that Roman would win the Rumble. And I've been firm on my statement, and I firmly believe this, that whoever faces The Fiend for the title will not win the Royal Rumble. People have to remember you have 2 championships. So if people hear Roman is going to face The Fiend, they automatically get freaked out that automatically means that Roman is going to win the Rumble. It doesn't mean that at all. I bet you Roman's going to get tossed out of the Rumble. and he's going to lose. I think he'll get the shot against The Fiend in that Elimination Chamber bullshit or some other match or something on SmackDown, because only the Rumble winner challenges a champion. The other champion gets a contender some other way, and I think Roman will be that some other way guy. And when you think of Brock Lesnar and who he's going to face, I said this the other night, the winner of the Royal Rumble essentially gets to choose which champion he wants to pick, right? So in a lot of ways, if you can believe this, Brock Lesnar might be the lesser of two evils, because you can think of somebody like Keith Lee or Matt Riddle or Cain Velasquez. They would have reason to pick Brock. I want to test myself against the best. I want to win the title against the best in the main event of WrestleMania. I don't want to test myself against Freddy fucking Krueger. I want to test myself against the best wrestler, which is what Brock is. If I'm trying to, be the best horror movie protagonist, then I'll face Bray Wyatt or something. But I think whoever wins the Rumble will challenge Brock, because currently on the Raw roster, if you eliminate Seth and possibly Kevin Owens or Drew McIntyre, who's really there that can challenge Brock Lesnar? I think Brock Lesnar's challenger will be a surprise. Every year we see that, right? Most years, the Royal Rumble winner will challenge an opposite brand champion or something like that. So if you add some NXT people like a Keith Lee or a Matt Riddle, that really opens it up. So I think that would be a nice balance. If WWE is going to go the predictable route and nobody's able to defeat this Fiend character, and finally Roman gets it done at WrestleMania, which I still don't think is a given, because you have to remember at WrestleMania 34, I think it was, people were certain that he was going to beat Brock Lesnar and blah, 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 or whatever the fuck, and he lost. Got pinned right in the middle of the ring and got left laying in a pool of his own blood. So it is not a given at all. And Roman Reigns lost tonight, and he's dropped some Rumbles. He only won that one Royal Rumble that pissed everybody off. It's not like he won 10 of them. A lot of these things he was getting tossed out or being the second to last guy and being thrown out. So he's not this superhuman guy. Yes, WWE is in love with him. Yes, WWE insists on making him this superhero type babyface, but I think a lot of that has not been so bad lately. Roman has done fine. Roman's good in the ring. He's been having a lot of different programs nowhere near the world title, so it would stand to reason that eventually, after, his long fight back from leukemia and all of that, it's only logical that this guy would be back in the title picture again at WrestleMania. Well, I don't want Bray Wyatt's momentum to be killed. Who's to say you're even going to like this gimmick by then? The fans get sick of shit real quick, if you haven't noticed. And by the time we get to WrestleMania, people might be ready for Bray Wyatt to end. That's what they say about Shayna Baszler, right? People wanted Shayna Baszler to lose that title 3 or 4 months after she won it. I'm just tired of her. Well, then you're probably going to be tired of Bray Wyatt too. So I don't think he'd lose momentum or anything like that, especially if it turns out to be the Funhouse Bray Wyatt. Or you can throw a big swerve at us and not even have him lose the title to Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns gets the title shot, does the whole build with The Fiend. He goes into the match at WrestleMania. Everybody's expecting him to beat The Fiend and do the Roman Reigns thing and celebrate with a pyro while Vince McMahon jerks off at Gorilla, and instead he eats the mandible claw and gets put down by The Fiend. Who is to say that's not going to happen when we've seen it happen to Roman so many times before? Why are people so confident that he's going to win? And even if he does, he's a top star. That's what top stars do. They win titles. So if they do that, I'm not losing my mind as long as they balance it out at WrestleMania with cooler shit, like a Brock Lesnar and Keith Lee match, or Brock just dropping it to anybody awesome. And that can be anybody on the list. That can be a Keith Lee, Matt Riddle, Kevin Owens, Drew McIntyre. I don't know who the fuck else currently that we'd like to see, unless it turns out to be a SmackDown guy winning the Rumble instead of an NXT guy, and that person jumps. Maybe that person wants nothing to do with Bray Wyatt. I'm gonna take this opportunity to get the hell off of SmackDown and jump ship. So you could do that, and I like the everybody shit on this when I said I liked it, but I didn't hate. Let's just put it this way. Maybe I didn't like it, but I didn't hate the Kofi Kingston idea. Kofi lost the belt. I was there. I was in the crowd in LA to watch Kofi lose that title in 5 seconds. Fans have been all up WWE's ass for saying, why does Kofi act like he doesn't care that he ever had the belt? He basically acts like it never happened. And that would make a good story for him to get beat like that and then win the Royal Rumble and say, you know what? I want to hop over to Raw and I want another shot at you, Brock. I know I can last longer than 5 seconds with you. And then I'm going to prove to myself and the fans that I can beat you. And what happened at SmackDown, months ago was bullshit, and I'll take your title. And then he does. But again, I don't know how realistic that is. Kofi he's a veteran now, and he's been around for a long time. Maybe Brock putting over someone that can have a little bit more longer shelf life on top for the future might be the better idea there. But I think WWE can have fun with the Brock challenger and maybe just do the predictable route with the Fiend. And that, to me, that's a fair enough balance to where I'm not going to freak out, because there's a lot of wrestling fans in the world and we all can't be happy. Not everybody can be pleased all of the time. So I'm willing to compromise with WWE. If they insist on going with the predictable, with Roman being crowned champion, at least give us something fun on the other side and in the rest of the card, like Seth Rollins and CM Punk. You give me Seth Rollins and CM Punk, you give me Keith Lee and Brock Lesnar, or Matt Riddle and Brock Lesnar, you give me any of those matches, and I don't give a fuck what Roman does. I don't care if Roman beats The Fiend in 5 seconds like Brock beat Kofi. Do not care. You give me enough to make up for that, I'll forget all about it. I'm a forgiving guy. See how nice I am? Brock versus Joe. I don't know, Joe's killing it, man. Tonight was his first pay-per-view, right, on commentary? I'm liking Samoa Joe on commentary. But I did say whenever he does get back in the ring, you've got the perfect, catalyst to make that happen right there. He's on commentary. Eventually, at some point, like what happened to Dio Madden, maybe Brock comes out there and starts tearing shit up, and then Joe gets in his face. But we've seen that, man. I wanted Joe to win the title. What year? Was it 2017 or 2016? I think it was 2017. Great balls of fire. Who can forget that? I still remember to this day what my predictions were prior to the pay-per-view. I predicted Joe was going to win. I said they should do it. Why not? Get nuts. Have some fun with this one. Joe's a badass. Defeating another badass gives him a big rub, makes him a major player in the company. I thought it was a win-win all the way around for Brock to put over Joe, but they didn't do it. So if they didn't do it 2 years ago when Joe was younger and healthier than he is now, I don't know why they're going to do it now. So even though I like your idea, Chelsea Mike, I think it's going to happen. Nick Musser, you make my days better too, man. You know what else will make my days better? If y'all could smash some thumbs up for me, hook me up, I'd appreciate it. I don't know what you mean about that, Sonny Man. What about R-Truth? What about him? Like, as far as someone winning the Rumble? I don't think so. I love R-Truth. I never want him to leave. I want him to have a job in WWE for life, and even beyond his ring career, I want him to stay there. I think Ron Killings will, if he takes like a backstage producer role or something like that in WWE, I could see him doing that. Or I could see him playing the role of, I don't know, like a Brother Love or a Kamala or a Boogeyman, somebody that just randomly turns up out of nowhere randomly. Like, he's gone from the company, but they just constantly bring him back in. Hornswoggle's like that. Maybe Santino Marella might be an example. But actually, F that. I don't want him to just come back in every now and then. I want him to have a full-time job behind the scenes where he appears on camera from time to time. That's what I meant to say. R-Truth is the best, man. He's been around there for, 20 years ago he debuted. I remember. My God. Where does the time go? No, that's an interesting one. Angry Operator, a.k.a. Crazy Bob. Randy Orton should beat Brock. Much like Samoa Joe, like they did that match. That was a match we were waiting for, and then we finally got it in the main event of SummerSlam. They even promoted it on Brock's UFC card that he was on. And I was like, man, this might be a chance for Randy Orton. And Randy Orton literally got his head smashed open, and that was the end of the match. So, would that be the match to do? At this point, every time Brock has that belt, the one silver lining in him being a champion, even though the fans have no patience, no memory or anything like that, they immediately reject it when they don't realize that the one good thing about that is every time he's champion means he gets to lose it to somebody. Last year, he lost it to Seth twice, and the fans seem to enjoy those matches both times. So now he finds himself champion again. Now somebody else's chance. Instead of Seth again, they're not going to do that. It can be somebody else. And you got a whole slew of guys to pick from. Somebody currently on the roster or somebody on an NXT roster. Either way, whoever that person is, provided it's not Cain Velasquez, which it likely will be because you don't do what you did in Crown Jewel without a return. That's kind of the way Brock Lesnar's matches go. With The Undertaker, wins one, loses one. Goldberg wins one, loses one. With those big-time box office matches, he tends to split them. So I think Velasquez might come back, but that's not what I want to see. I don't want to see Cain Velasquez win the Royal Rumble and challenge Brock Lesnar, because that means we're going to get Cain and Brock and Roman and The Fiend. No good. So that might mean, shit, I don't even think, if Cain Velasquez, I will change up a little bit my prediction here. about WrestleMania. I said that Brock Lesnar's challenger will win the Royal Rumble. I'm actually going to make one exception to that. If it turns out to be Cain Velasquez, I don't think Cain wins. I think Cain just somehow comes back and gets the title match that way. And then whoever wins the Rumble winds up challenging The Fiend, which means it could be Roman Reigns. But I think Roman Reigns winning the Rumble is a mistake. He doesn't need to. It's a feather that his cap doesn't need. He already has it. He's already got world titles. Roman winning the Rumble is just silly to me. So if you're going to give the you're going to give Roman a title match at WrestleMania, great. Do it. Just do it without the Royal Rumble. But on the other side of that, I don't want to see Velasquez win the Rumble. I just don't. I'm not sold on him yet. You know, he's only been in the ring for a couple of minutes, and he tapped out to Lesnar. Oh, man, they're going to do that match at WrestleMania, are they? Actually, aren't they? But one thing we have to keep in mind here, I think they could save that for Crown Jewel. It is possible they could save that for the next Saudi show, which I'm sure will happen right after WrestleMania. So could be either one there, but if they're going to do Velasquez and Brock, I'd actually prefer that in Saudi Arabia because I don't want that on my WrestleMania pay-per-view. Just not a match I'd be interested in. So WrestleMania has a potential to be pretty awesome with some pretty cool things potentially happening, and also has a potential to really suck. Yikes. Glad I'm not going. Doesn't look like I'm going to be making WrestleMania this year, although I hope to make next year because I hope it's on the west side of the country. I really think we're going to get it here in LA, or Vegas will, or maybe even Arizona again. If it's on this half of the country, I plan on going next year, and I'm really hoping it's just a 2-hour car drive up the road to Los Angeles for WrestleMania 37. TLC tonight, by the way, was in the Target Center in Minneapolis, and I did see a sign in the crowd that said, Minnesota wants WrestleMania, and they've got a beautiful new stadium as well, and there has been talk of WrestleMania going there, but I hope they come to Vegas or LA first before hitting up Minnesota. Props to WWE for putting a pay-per-view in December in Minneapolis. Risking some travel problems with that freezing-ass cold weather that's probably up there. What year was it? It was Royal Rumble. It was 2015. It was when Roman won, right? The big debacle in Philly. And they all got stranded, and they aired a weird version of Monday Night Raw. Like interviews from headquarters and shit like that. They were risking a big one there. All right, so that's pretty much going to wrap it up for tonight. What else do we need to talk about before tomorrow night's Monday Night Raw? I'll go through here and read some of these comments to see if anybody said anything that should be talked about. Yeah, where is Seth Rollins? The funny thing is I thought, because they spent some time tonight on the Kickoff show talking about the Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens and AOP situation, showed a replay of everything we saw on Raw. So I thought we were going to get maybe a segment. I knew we weren't going to get a match, but I thought we might get a segment with Rollins maybe doing an in-ring promo, and then he's attacked by Owens or the AOP or something. And we never even got that, so I don't even know why they were discussed. And I can't believe we didn't get a match between Owens and Seth tonight on the pay-per-view. Because with Royal Rumble being so far away, I don't even know if you book a match between those two for the Royal Rumble. I think you got to do a lot of stuff on Raw with Rollins and Owens. I mean, I guess you could. It just seemed like Royal Rumble is just a ways away still. So we got a lot of time to get to that and a lot of TV. And I don't think Brock Lesnar's due back on TV until the beginning of the year anyway. Yeah, so I don't know. Looking forward to Wrestle Kingdom, though, coming up in just a few weeks. That'll be fun. I'm not sure if I'll get a review up on that or not. I'll be watching it, but then I'll be very tired because that thing airs all night long. I think it starts at midnight for me, so it'll be really late at night. I'll have to wait like a full day if I do any sort of review on it, but I'm sure I'll mention it at least on the podcast. And then my year-end video coming up on the 30th. And then it'll be 2020, Royal Rumble time, WrestleMania time. I'm excited. So anyway, I think that's going to wrap it up for me for this evening. I want to thank everybody for hanging out tonight. It was a decent audience. I was a little concerned about the audience numbers the past few weeks on the channel and on the streams. They seem to be picking back up now, which is great. So you guys tune in tomorrow night, immediately following Raw. I'll be up here for a live review. We'll discuss the show and whatever groundwork they've laid for the rest of the year and setting up for the Royal Rumble. But based on what we saw on TLC tonight, I don't know what we're really going to see on Raw. You know, more stuff with the women possibly, and maybe a return match with Aleister Black and Buddy Murphy. Maybe the final split between Zelina Vega and Andrade if they do another match with him and he loses again or something. And Viking Raiders will probably do something, and that's about it. And Rusev and Lashley, we'll have to see if that is, in fact, the end of the program, or if they're going to come back and do one more thing, or if Rusev gets some sort of revenge finally on the two of them before he's moved on to do something else. Who knows? Either way, based on what we saw tonight, it's not looking like a very good Raw from where I sit. But what can you do? That's the norm. Anyway, you guys be good. Take care. Thanks for hanging out tonight. I appreciate it, and I will catch you in 24 hours for a post-Raw review. Y'all be good. Peace.